first of all, we want to ask ourselves, what led to the formation of this task force of regulating churches in Kenya? And most of you already know about it, but we just want to discuss what led to the formation of this task force.
Thank you so much, Eston, for that question. The main reason, the only reason actually, why the task force was formed by the president was because of the SHAKAHOLA massacre. The cult, headed by Paul Mackenzie, led to the loss of lives of hundreds of individuals. As per today, what's the date today?
18th of June.
Yes, as per today, the 18th of June 2023, there are 336 bodies that were found in Shakahola, Kilifi County. And we are still counting. Who knows by the end of this year how many other people will have been found. So because of such a dire outcome, that people have lost their lives in a place that is supposed to actually give them eternal life, or it's supposed to enrich their lives, they realized that they can't go unregulated. The public is exposed, the public is in danger, and something needs to be done. So I think the first major reason is that lives were lost from the Shakahola massacre. Another challenge we have seen from that particular cult that necessitated some sort of reforms or regulation within the church is the fact that individuals were not going to school. That leader, Paul Mackenzie, mandated his followers to remove their children from school. So he was actually making them not to participate in a central tenet of life. We as Kenyans are committed to educating our citizenry and to ensure that they live a better life. So if there's somebody out there who is teaching such retrogressive ideas, then he's going to be a problem. And if we let churches run amok, then maybe many other people could continue teaching such problematic ideas. So I think that's my take on why a task force was necessary.
Thank you for this topic. Why I was shocked to hear some pastor yesterday, they were fighting against task force that was recommended by our president, William Ruto. But to me, we need to ask ourselves, why do president request for that task force? It's because of what happened in SHAKAHOLA and what is happening to some weird churches. We know so far over 300 people have died in SHAKAHOLA because of fasting, because those churches were not regulated. So we need to regulate so that we may be able to eliminate all those kind of chaotic, all those kind of killing, because people are dying innocently when they are innocent. So we need to regulate so that we may be able to minimize this kind of disaster that is shaming our country. So to me, those pastors, I think you need to accept, let's regulate churches so that we may be able to minimize the harm in our country. Thank you.
I think it's devastating. Something needs to be done, and that's why this reform was said, so that these leaders can discuss and see what will happen moving forward, so that we do not have something like this. And because this is not something that these are international news actually, so it's not something that has just happened in Kenya. The world is watching. They're looking at Kenya. What is Kenya doing? When people read about Kenya, this is the news that they're getting. Wherever they are, whether they're investors, whether they're tourists, whether they're children who want to come, maybe they're students who want to come and study in Kenya. So it's a big issue, and I feel like people are not taking it seriously, and they should be taking it. I feel like everything needs to stop. until everything that's not serious needs to stop until we come to a solution, because this cannot continue. In a country like Kenya, this cannot continue. So yeah, it was very important for the reform to be made so that we can implement it.
Yeah, what happened in Shakahola is very unfortunate. It's not the first time, let it be the last time. Now this task force can help in avoiding that ever happening again. Because like I said, there are many other cases in other countries where it's happened. So I believe this task force, it's a start to avoid repetition of something so drastic.
So the Shakahola issue, why was this task force formed? I think first we have to know that this is something that never started this year, or it's something that started a long time ago. And if you can see is that one of the causes was a security measure failures. Maybe there was a glitch in our security system that had caused this from not being gotten attention of. Therefore, for me, I feel like, of course, a task force has been formed. That's right. But you see, as one of my colleagues said, that it's actually taking too much time. All right. And therefore, I feel like we are all waiting to see what is going to happen after several recommendations have been made to the government for the regulation of churches, and not just churches. I think it is it goes all along to other religions. Yeah.
Another reason why this task force was necessary from the Shakahola massacre was because of the nature of financial relationships between followers and the leader of Good News International Church, the one that was responsible for the deaths of all those people. You find that many cult leaders, or not even cult leaders, church leaders, religious leaders, tend to take advantage of their flock. With Pastor Mackenzie, he had caused a very respectable member of the community, a certain lady who was an air hostess, to sell all her belongings. She got, I don't know whether it was something like 7 million shillings from selling her property, and then she brought it to the church. So this happens in many other religious institutions around the country because faithful members are gullible. The pastor tells them, if you bring your property, if you bring your money, you're going to get a blessing. Give and it shall come back to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Hallelujah! So we need to protect those gullible people from such individuals. And then lastly, I think a task force was also necessary from the threat to the social fabric that comes from cult-like teachings. And cult-like teachings are not just limited to cults, they are also present in main church denominations.
Thank you for all those recommendations that you said. And one more thing I have to say is that in our neighboring country, in Rwanda, their president Paul Kagame, he made a task force to regulate churches, and actually 6,000 churches were shut down in that country, and it brought sanity in the region in that country. And I like the same to happen in our country, Kenya. In those churches, I've seen the Catholic Church and evangelical churches, pastors, they came together to criticize the government for forming this task force. And I'd like to say that the reason why they don't want this task force is because they know most of their churches will be shut down, because all they want from their members is to reap from them where they did not sow.
So another question we have to ask ourselves, is the current task force really ideal to conduct reformation in churches? Like, what are the gaps that may exist in this task force that has been formed by the government to carry out regulation of churches in Kenya? So another question we have to ask ourselves, is the current task force really ideal to conduct reformation in churches? Like, what are the gaps that may exist in this task force that has been formed by the government to carry out regulation of churches in Kenya?
This task force should be encouraged. Let's all join together and support it, because it will bring transparency, nothing will be hidden, and will avoid tragedies like what we just saw with SHAKAHOLA. So let's encourage it. Thanks.
On that question, Eston, absolutely not. Pastors are not ideal, or pastors, clergy, or any church leaders are not ideal people to belong in the task force, because it's like asking a mouse to build a mousetrap. Most of these leaders are in business. They are what I like to call pastorpreneurs. Yeah, I remember there's a gentleman I was working with who did a TED talk on the problems of our country, Kenya, and he said that there are three problems. One, we have tenderpreneurs, people who are constantly getting tenders and they don't deliver any service, they don't make any products, they don't make any services. It's just getting tenders from the government. Those are the people that are holding us back as a country. Another problem is startuppreneurs, people who claim that they have a startup for 10 years. They keep getting funding from investors, but there's nothing to show for their product. Then the third problem that person identified in his TED talk was pastorpreneurs. People who just go, they make their hair, they put some gel on it, they get the latest designer suits, then they go and cram some few sound bites from the Bible and start a church. It's nothing more than a business. So when you create a task force, what you are doing is you are putting a stop to their business. How are they going to let that happen? They won't. They're just giving a semblance of investigation, of public participation, but in all honesty, there's nothing tangible that will come from them. Mouses cannot build mousetraps.
Now, on the task force, why and how it was formed. Of course, we know the current tragedy that is going on in Malindi, in Kilifi, the coast of Kenya, where a church, or let's say a cult, but for the sake of argument, we call it a church, called something international for Mackenzie, has been indoctrinating people and putting them into, forcing them to fast and to do these cultish things. And to put it in simple words, it's a massacre, where people, I think we are currently at 300 and something bodies, 336 bodies. And we have over 600 unaccounted for, reported missing. So it's a big massacre. It's a historical massacre. So and that is what has given the church and the political leadership some sense of retrospection to see what they can do. Because whether you are pro or against religion, we are human first, and it's to lose 300, 400 bodies, people, it's not an easy task. But the question is it ideal? Is it an ideal task force? I would say yes and no. Yes, because you see, whenever you are doing an investigation of, let's say, any sector, the best people to involve is normally people in that sector, like the matatu sector in Kenya. If you want to reform them, you need to ask them. They are the one who deal with the matatu every day, so they have an insight from inside that as an outsider you might not have. But at the same time, you have to realize that they have vested interest, which is profit. Funny enough, the similarity between matatu sector, the banking sector, and the church sector is that nowadays they are all profit motivated, and therefore they are likely, as much as they have an insight of what is ailing the sector, they also have very vested interest, and they are likely to be biased in terms of they are likely not to be objective, because they are not looking for real solutions to the problem. They are looking for loopholes to protect, to safeguard their interest, aka profit. And with that, I therefore think the fact that the commission is made of purely religious leaders, led by Reverend Mutava Musimi,
and then I think they are all reverend and bishops, and then there is one or two sheikhs. First of all, it's not representative because this is not a church issue. This is a national issue. Therefore, every sector should be represented, whether it's the church, whether it's the Muslim, whether it's the Hindu, whether it's the atheist, whether it's the secular community. Everybody should be involved. Number two, you cannot themselves. One of the problems I have with the church sector, especially the evangelical, the prosperity gospel, the reason why it has attracted so many people is because of tax incentive. If you remove taxes from banking sector, everybody would run to the banking sector. The fact that there are no taxes in the church industry is the reason why everybody has run to that industry. Because you get all the money. First of all, they don't even follow the laws that are there. They're supposed to file returns, even if they don't pay tax. Nobody follows up to ensure that they follow those returns. That's why it's difficult even to estimate how much the churches collect. And that's something that I don't expect those people who are the biggest beneficiaries of those profits to be able to deal with. The other thing I see that they are not going to address is the fact that we need a reform in terms of religious education. One of the biggest problems I see with what happened in the massacre is people who have been fed religion from a very tender age, and their sense of critical thinking has been dampened. They have grown up learning never to question anything, and they have been told every time you question, that's the devil. Every time you question, your faith is blah blah. So they have learned to accept things, and with that kind of programming, when you meet a cult leader who is charismatic, who is manipulative, like Mackenzie, you fall victim very fast. So one of the things to address that is to ensure that kids, we cultivate the culture of questioning and critical thinking, and that includes ensuring that education, public education, cultivates that culture. And you cannot do that when you are teaching kids how to pray, you're telling kids how to believe. The church should be where kids learn religion. In school, they should learn other things other than religion. Things like philosophy, things like all other religion, not just their religion. And I don't think a Christian or a Muslim will support that to a large extent, because every religion thinks we are the true one and everybody else is wrong. So when you tell a Muslim to expect like a Christian bishop to come up with a curriculum that will say we teach Islam to Christian kids, they will not. Or we teach Hinduism, or we teach any other religion. Therefore, we need an outside voices from without the religion. And therefore, to answer your question directly, no, it's not ideal. I think it's a sugarcoating mechanism, especially also considering how close our political system is with the church. I think they are just doing a PR exercise to look like they are doing something, and then the scandal, the massacre scandal is get off the media, and everybody goes back to prosperity gospel. I think it's a sugarcoating, to be honest. Thank you.
Another question we need to ask ourselves is, what other reasons could lead to formation of a task force apart from this SHAKAHOLA incident? Why do we need this task force? Because there are other incidences that have happened, not necessarily in Kenya, but even in other countries. Like I remember, for example, in the country of Zimbabwe, there was this pastor who was selling tickets to heaven to his congregants at a fee of Kenya shillings 50,000, which was very insane. And people were actually buying it. Someone is selling you tickets to heaven for 50,000 shillings, and you are buying it. And secondly is in a while back in Uganda in 1992, there were people who were told that Jesus is coming. A certain priest, he told his congregants that Jesus is coming, so sell all your belongings, bring them to the Lord, and Jesus is coming to take us with him to heaven. And I think what happened. Those congregants were burnt in that church, and the pastors they escaped Uganda.
Then there's a guy called Jim Jones in Guyana, where he told his people to take poison, and they died. Like 909 people died. They took poison and they all died. Then he himself shot himself in the head. Then there's also this Heaven's Gate cult of somebody who they took poison because they saw a comet that would take them to heaven. So again, they all died. Then there's David Koresh. You can check him out. Who were in a building and they had guns, so they fought with the American soldiers, and also they all died. So I think it's something worth taking note of, something necessary. Thanks.
Oh, yes. And even outside the cult situation, in normal churches, we see instances of faith healing. For Pentecostal churches predominantly, but also other denominations, somebody tells you that they will heal you. So if you are taking medication or if you are getting treatment from a conventional hospital, they command you to stop. And that is why I feel religion is so insidious and so dangerous, that it keeps people from doing what is necessary to achieve results, and it gives them false hope. So in line with that example, I'm reminded of Prophet War and some of the promises or the miracles he has sold. There's a 12-year-old girl from Moranga called Wanjiko, who was suffering from leukemia. And Prophet War, in one of his mega crusades, claimed that this girl has been healed from leukemia, cancer, something that has no cure. He claimed that she has been healed, and he told her to stop taking treatment. Unfortunately, the story of this girl did not end well. She lost her life because she stopped treatment. So we need regulations around such behavior to protect the gullible masses from these individuals.
And also, this presidential task force that has been formed, it has called for public participation, and we'd like to give our proposals on what this presidential task force on the regulation of churches should do. And one of my proposals is that the religious education in schools should be combined and put into one subject, like CRE, IRE, Hindu religious education. It should be taught as one subject, and also other religions should be taught in that same subject, so that our children should not have in their mind that their religion is the only religion that is true and others are false. If they learn about other religions, maybe they can start also, yes, they'll keep their faith, but they'll also question in their head that I might be wrong, the other religions might be right. Of course.
On another reform that I would like for it to be included, personally, I feel very insulted when I'm in a public vehicle and someone is there preaching, bro, like I'm going nenda kazi, it's early in the morning, and you're there telling me about Joshua, about Prophet who. That is uncalled for. I'm not there to listen to that. So I personally feel it's very wrong. But again, someone, maybe if you're Christian, you might have no problem with it, or maybe if you are a member of that religion that is being preached, you might not have a problem with it. But then I find it, for example, if myself, if I'm in another religion, maybe we are doing some cults there, if I go to the bus with my maybe a gourd and then have some powders there, I'm very sure you'll not be comfortable with that. So it's the same way I feel very uncomfortable with you coming to preach to me, and if I wanted to be preached to, I'm very sure I'd have gone to a church. So it's very offending. And I remember there was a time I was in a hospital. Can you imagine a hospital? It's 7 a.m. in a hospital. It's nearly General Hospital, the referral hospital. There's usually someone, I don't know if he's in the registration or the department, but he usually preaching every day from Monday to Friday hapo kwa reception. I don't like it, honestly. We are people in Kenya. Kenya is a secular nation, so we have different people. There are people who don't want to listen to that, so they should work on that.
Now, about the regulations of churches, I would like to speak about taxation. And I feel like the churches are really making millions and millions of money, actually billions of money, because there's a report that was given, I think it was last year, about there's this church that had really collected almost 1 point something billion shillings, that is annually. And you see, the government is so reluctant in ensuring that there's accountability, because you see, when there's not no taxation, it means there's no accountability. So you can't know very well that that money was used to do what, because obviously we have in churches we have the accounting departments, but again we have to know that whatever people are contributing in churches, how are they going to be used? And that's why now comes an issue of taxation. The government actually currently is taxing even the content creators. Now we are expecting also to see that government is also going to go to churches also and tax the same churches some amount of money. And this brings also to the issue of auditing. Now, how am I going to know that, how is the government going to know that a church is accountable of whatever they're collecting? Now, I bring auditing. Now, because now we have churches that have pay bill numbers, I feel like I would suggest for government to come up with a payment gateway whereby if it is a must that a congregant in a church must contribute something to the church, then let it pass through a gateway whereby at least later on we'll know that this amount was withdrawn, this one was used on this date of this Sunday, there's a certain amount that was contributed, so that it brings accountability in churches. And that's my suggestion to the government.
My suggestion is to ban all religious study in school. This is the reason. You are atheist or you are an unbeliever, and your child is being forced to study CRI or ERI. That is not very fair. It's not fair. And there is no school that can accommodate your child, because there is no school that does not teach those religious study. So where do my kid or your kid, if you are Muslim or you are Hindus, where can your kid go? Because the school allowed is only for Christian, it's only for CRI. Or the school that are around is for Islamic. Where your child will go if you are Christian or not atheist. So for me, we are supposed to ban all the religious study, and if it's a must for our children to know those religions, let those religions be part of social study. Only that.
Mine is to still man the point. I think we have to have the discussion on the age of religion, the age at which we introduce religion to kids. Madrasas and Sunday schools are purely meant to ensure that the young people, the kids get this message when they are very young. I have no problem with the message. I have problem with how the message is delivered and what it's meant to do. Nobody forces people to learn like photosynthesis. There are no consequences of not believing photosynthesis. It's real. But when you're told that every aspect of doubt you have is not a normal thing, it's the devil talking to you, it's bad, why you doubt? And you see, naturally, we have 5 common sense. We like to see evidence by the time we believe. Like, I don't need to tell you, you have to believe this is a radio. No, this is a cup. I don't have to tell you, that's how our brain functions. You see this, you know it's a cup. But when I tell you, if you don't believe this is a radio, you're going to burn in hell forever and ever, then you become disoriented. And this is a very young mind. It's when the brains and the organs and the ideas are forming in the mind. So what am I saying? We have to ensure that the manner in which the religion is taught, even not just in public school, even in church and mosque, the curriculum has to be vetted. The curriculum, you cannot threaten them with hell if they don't do things that a normal human being does. As much as hell is fictional, it is to kids. It's not. When whatever the parents say, it's true. So it's going to traumatize them. So I think we have to ensure that we teach those things that are critical to religion at an advanced stage. I would suggest maybe 12 years and above, when a child can be introduced to religion. But below that, let them know very basic things. Not know you're going to hell, not know you're going to, the devil is using you. I think those things should not be part of any religious teaching or any teaching for a kid. Let teach kids religion when they get to 18, and let teach all of them, as they have said. Let's teach all of them, and then they will choose. And finally, you see, they have nothing to, if you're teaching the truth, you have nothing to worry about, whether you teach it at 2 years or at 20 years. Like I will not doubt photosynthesis if I learn it at 20 years. I just need to demonstrate. So if the truth is on your side and you believe in the truth of your claim, why worry about it? Yeah, that's it.
Just one more thing. The people in the task force should be well vetted, because we can't get aliens from us. So they should be well vetted to do a good job. Thanks.
I have two proposals for the task force. Number one is for there to be certification for any religious leaders. This is something that has been tried in our neighboring country, Rwanda. In fact, for Rwanda, President Paul Kagame requires pastors to hold a degree before they can open up a church and start teaching people. Likewise, in Kenya, I might not necessarily say a degree, but some sort of certification. It shouldn't just be any Tom, Dick, and Harry who decides out of the blue that they're going to start a church. And on this one, I've had certain responses by members of the clergy who say that, did Jesus have a degree? It is a calling. When you're called, you don't need any qualifications. But on that, I would ask them, what about a doctor? Doesn't a doctor have a calling? Should we also obey what is in their heart? And it is that kind of reasoning that has led to the SHAKAHOLA massacre and other instances of manipulation and using members of the church, because we hold religion as sacred. It's a sacred cow. It can't be touched with a 10-foot pole, and that is why it is running amok. So no, there are no exceptions. If somebody wants to be a man of God, if they want to be leaders, they have to be qualified. My other suggestion surrounds churches in residential areas. I'm sure we can all agree that churches have been a menace to us. Sometimes you're trying to catch some sleep. Maybe you slept late because you are doing night shift. So as you are trying to sleep, you start hearing a church sermon. Yeah, because the church is located within a residential area. It shouldn't be in residential areas. It should be in the outskirts. And the number of churches should also be regulated by the registrar. I'm reminded of the one on Wayaki Way, Uthiru. There's a spot there. It's a very small perimeter, but it has like 100 churches. And you're wondering, which is this special message that this pastor has, which the other one right next door does not? I think the registrar needs to be keen on that. She needs to clamp that down, and we need to actually have more registrars across the country in several counties, because if there was a registrar in Kilifi, then perhaps they would have caught the SHAKAHOLA massacre. I also think it is important for them to pass noise pollution laws. Some of these people, they can be in that tiny room in a stall, but he has this microphone and these speakers, and he's causing a menace to everybody. So they need to check on that. They need to check on health and safety, because sometimes people are so crowded, there's no ventilation. We've heard of people passing out. They say, it is the Spirit of God that slayed them. But no, there's no ventilation. There are no windows, and people are dancing and they're sweating. So it's just not safe for individuals, especially those maybe who are asthmatic and what have you. Lastly, for Jehovah Witnesses, street evangelism. Those people who stop in the marketplace, in public spaces, and start preaching. Kenya is a secular nation. Yes, you have a right to your faith, but don't go affecting everybody else. Yeah, your right to throw a fist stops at my chin. And as my closing remark, I would like to remind you of the words of Maggie Smith, who said that religion is like a penis. Everybody can have one, anybody can have one, and anybody can even be proud of it. However, do not whip it out in public and shove it around, and most importantly, do not ram it down my children's throat. Thank you.
So just to conclude on the reform suggestions that we've actually made. So obviously we know that there's freedom of religion and freedom, but we have to realize that each freedom, each right also has a limitation, and that's why the government needs to enforce this in a way that will not infringe other people's rights. Also, I think we have these bodies that, like now, the issue of noise pollution in churches. Of course, the same way the government is running up and down to close clubs and reduce noise pollutions, I think also this should also apply in churches, and that's why we have a body like NEMA. And I feel like NEMA is just sleeping on their work. Lastly, it's very funny that in Zimbabwe, like that case now that was spoke about, someone is telling people to buy a ticket at 50,000 Kenyan shillings. Yet, a flight from Kenya to Morocco itself is not 50,000. And you realize that people are paying for this. And this shows that there's a lot of manipulation of pastors on their congregants. So therefore, as I close, I would just like to advise the government that we need to see these regulations made. We need to see them enforced, and we hope that we'll see this going through.
The other day, the county government of Nairobi was closing clubs, and then the governor came out to say, we are going to close all the clubs, but with the noisy churches we are going to negotiate. And that's how privileged, you see, and that is why there is no even distinction between where the church ends and where the political class ends. And the government is behaving in a manner like we are in a theocracy, like they are representative of the church. So I think that should not happen. There's nothing like holy noise. Noise is noise. Do not make noise. Let everybody keep their cool, and then that's it. The other thing is people who say that Jesus never had a degree. But I would ask them, Jesus also never drove a car. So should we not drive a car? Yeah. Should we not fly an aeroplane? Because Jesus never drove an aeroplane. So this is what happens when you live with the dictates of a medieval norms or values that are way past by time. So let's be objective, let's be modern, let's take things in context, and then we can be able to progress.